Okay, folks, it's here. The automated story machine. Someone's already created a version of this that sort of works. If you've actually built it, you'll understand the challenges that comes with that. So I built the same thing. It delivers the same results, and you get a little bit more flexibility, and it's a lot more rigid. The downside is you do need to set up some stuff locally. But once you've got all that stuff set up, that becomes extremely useful, not just for this particular automation, but a lot of other automations moving forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the end result. Then I'm going to quickly run through the software that's needed, that you need to sort of get set up to make this whole thing work. I'm not going to go through the whole installation guide, but I will put a link to this document which I made, which just goes through all of that, right? A lot of this, everything is Docker based apart from the actual image generation, but I'll cover that. That's super simple to set up as well. So this is what it produces. If I go over to Baserow here, this is one of the things you'll need to install. This is Airtable, but open source, so that's good. And this is one that I ran earlier, and this is what it's produced. I've already downloaded this.
Gloop the gentle dragon, Poppy the panda, and Cheep and Chirp, the cloud birds, were floating. Not in the sky, but on a giant, fluffy marshmallow. Imagine it, a mountain of soft, squishy sweetness. It was a marshmallow mountain.
Okay, so I've just muted that. She'll go on and jabber on for 2 minutes and 26 seconds.
And the quiet lullaby of cloudbirds. Sweet dreams, little one.
So there you go. Pretty cool. You can see the images. They're all animated. Well, I mean, they're just zooming in, right? There's nothing really special going on there. But this has cost us nothing to make, which is where the magic is. So what I'm going to do is quickly show you the software you need. So in Docker, like I said, all of this bar one thing is all Docker based. We need the NCA Toolkit. So this is like your video API, right? This is what's going to convert videos to images to videos. It can do transcriptions. If we just go over to the GitHub page here, Stephen, I'll put a link to his channel. Definitely check him out. There's a lot of automation stuff. And he's built this tool, open sourced it, made it free. It's fantastic. I don't know why people are not covering this more, because a lot of the automations people are using, like Creator-Mate and stuff like that, and that is just mega expensive. And you know, this tool, it will do what we need it to do, right? And it will do more. Why are we paying for closed source stuff? So I'll put a link to the GitHub as well. Check this out. Super easy to use. Once you sort of understand how the endpoints and stuff work, he has a video on this, a whole video on his YouTube that goes through all this. He sets it up with Google Cloud. I've set it up sort of locally. So the storage and everything's all done locally, all the processing's done locally. He has a custom GPT that he's made. So if you want to use the compose endpoint, you can just go to the GPT, custom GPT, and just ask it what you want it to do, right? Oh, you want to combine two videos, or you want to combine audio to a video, right? But you want the audio to loop. You just ask it that. It's going to walk you through the whole process. Really, really useful. I've used it many, many times. So NCA Toolkit, really, really cool. That's one of the things you'll need to install. It's a one-line Docker command. It's super straightforward. The next one is Mini.io. This is storage. So once you've got this installed, you can create buckets. This is like having Amazon storage, right? Or Google storage. So you create buckets, you can upload stuff to them buckets. Really, really straightforward to use. The one thing I would say is when you create a bucket, so if I go and create a bucket here and just call it test, and then click create, you will need to go into that bucket. By default, it's marked as private. So anything that's uploaded, you won't be able to access the links or anything. So you'll need to just change that to public. Now, depending on how your network's set up, this will just be local to your network, right? Unless you've sort of exposed your IP or whatever. But if you don't have this as public, the workflow is not going to be able to access that file. So something to keep in mind there with that. But that's cool. You know, once you've got this set up, it's storage basically. Anytime you need to build a workflow in n8n, it comes with these S3 nodes, and you can upload a file, you can create a bucket, you could delete, you can do all sorts, right? Really straightforward. It's great that n8n has got this built in. You just need to put your credentials in, set up an access key, which you can do in the mini IO itself. Access keys, create a new one, copy these, create. Super straightforward stuff. And then you've got storage. So any project moving forward, you've got storage. Really cool. The next thing is n8n, obviously. That's going to be one you need to install. Kokoro. I don't know how you say that. I think it's Kokoro. Kokoro Fast API GPU, right? Or Kokoro TTS is what it's called. This is super cool. Super lightweight. I think it uses like less than 3 gigabytes of RAM. It's blazing fast, like incredibly quick. You can generate like entire bucks in like, I don't know, 20 seconds. And you just get the whole audio. It's insanely quick. My PC is not the quickest. I have, you can see my specs here. I have a decent CPU. My graphics card is a GeForce 3060, so it's not like some super high-end machine, and all this runs no issues at all. NRock there, I have another instance of n8n, and I sort of expose my TTS to the world in that sense, so that's what I've got installed there. You don't need to install that. This is just, I'm just explaining that because it's there in the list, right? In case you're wondering what that was. You don't need that. And then we've got Baserow, which is Airtable, but free. Who doesn't love that? If you're using Airtable, you'll probably run into the issue that I was running into. If you're setting up a lot of these automations, doing a lot of tinkering and testing, you're going to hit the attachment limits. You're going to hit API request limits. You're going to run into a bunch of issues, and it's just going to kill your projects, right? You're going to be forced to pay. If you use something like Baserow, it offers, you know, close to the same functionality, and it's completely open source and free, so why not? And then the last bit of software is what we use for the image generation. Now, you can use an online one, but the whole point of this is we're using open source software, and we're using, you know, we're doing it for free. So I've got Stability Matrix installed. You could just, I'll put a link to this again. It's free. It's just an easy way to just install these web UI image generators. They're just one-click installs. It does all the complicated stuff for you. This one is, the one I'm using is Stable Diffusion Web UI Reforge. There is another one that's not called Reforge. It's just called Stable Diffusion Web UI. But I couldn't get the API to do what I wanted it to do, right? It was missing some endpoints, so this one works. The only thing you'll need to do is install this, go to the settings, scroll down where it says extra launch arguments, put in --API, and that basically enables the API so you can use it within your n8n or anywhere else on your network. The model that I'm actually using for this is Juggernaut. You can browse models directly in this, and you can download them directly within this, which is really cool. I'm also using a Lora on top, which is giving me that sort of painted look on the images. And I'll put a link to that as well. That's also on Civet AI. I can't remember the name of it here, so I can't sort of show you right now, but I'll definitely put a link to it in the description. Then you just click launch. That's it. You can go to the web UI. You can start playing. I kind of prefer this option for image generation because you can play around with different models, you play around with different Loras, you can really dial in a look, right? You can dial in your parameters on the web UI here, and then that will translate into a web API call, right? So if you've got a look, you've got you've got something that works consistently. Excuse me. When it works consistently, then in n8n we can just pipe that in into the settings as an API, right? As part of an automation. It's not as quick as the online ones. It's a bit slower. Obviously, you're running this locally, so these images take like 15-20 seconds, I think, to generate for me. I don't mind that. it's just a lot more flexible. So that's the image generation you'll need. That's it, right? Once you've got all this set up, your n8n workflows then become so much more flexible. You don't need to worry about online storage. You've got fancy spreadsheets effectively, right? And limited databases. You can tinker around, not have to worry about limits in that sense. And it's not going to cost you anything. So I'm going to quickly run this. I know that took a little bit of time there for me to sort of go through all that. Again, there'll be an installation doc. There'll be a JSON link to this entire workflow as well. So you just copy and paste this in. And yeah, let's just let's run it, and then I'll just run through the nodes here. So I'm going to run the whole thing. I just need to link that up there because these image generations are going to take a little bit of time, but we'll run it. So it's on a schedule trigger. You can schedule this however you want, right? It's up to you. It's not costing anything. It's going to get all the Baserow items that are basically marked as pending. And this is one of the things I like with the Baserow node in n8n is you can add these filters. And these are really, really easy to set up and use, right? Unlike Airtable where you have to do some fancy formulas and all that kind of stuff. I kind of don't like doing that. The fact that it's just kind of just got it built in. So I've got a status if it contains pending. So if it's marked as pending, then just bring all them records in. Now we could have multiple records in there all pending, so it would bring all of them in. In this case, it's just brought one. Then we just limit that down to one, right? We just say, take the first one and just spit out that first one. That's all we want. It's not going to bother with the rest. From there, we're doing a set node. So this is going to set the length, the speed of the video, or the speed of the TTS even. Now, the reason I'm doing this and I have to do this is in the limit node here, these speed, length, these come through as strings, which is not good. We want them as numbers because a bit later on down the line, we're going to do some math and stuff on that, and we need them to be numbers to do that. So that's the reason for setting it in the set node there. We've got the script, the scrippy. This is the script agent, so this generates the scripts. Really nothing complicated here. I got ChatGPT to generate this prompt. When it comes to this sort of stuff, designing agents like this, just work with ChatGPT, right? Tell it what you want, work with it back and forth, and then you'll get something at the end of it. That's what I do. It works. So yeah, you can do the same. Again, you can just copy this. It's going to be a link to the entire workflow, so this will be included in it. But we're giving it the topic, and this is being pulled from the limit section here. So I'm not pulling it from the base, so I'm pulling it from the limit because this is only ever going to produce one row, right? Where this space row could produce multiple rows. So we're going to pull everything from the limit here whenever we need to reference anything in this table here. Giving it the topic, the audience, the length, the characters, and you can see on the right side here what that actually translates into. So that's pretty cool. That it's just produced this, right? So this is what it's produced, this script, just simple stuff. Now there is a formatter here, and what this does is it gets rid of, if you look on the script here, it's got these line breaks. For the TTS, we don't really want that, so we just got this regex. I think that's regex, right? I got ChatGPT to give me this. I said to it, I just want to get rid of these line breaks. How can I do this in n8n? And it just gave me that. So put it in a set node. Beautiful stuff, right? Don't even need to use my brain to do that. And it works. Gives me nice, clean text without any of them weird line breaks. From there, we go into a parser. Now, I was having issues having a parser on the scriptwriter here. It just wouldn't parse it in the correct way. I wanted it to be outputted as a story of a type string, right? So it outputs like this consistently every time. But for whatever reason, it was failing. And having a look on the n8n forums, people were suggesting just make another LLM and just give it its sole role to take its input and parse it correctly, right? Which is what I'm doing. Then this doesn't fail. This works every single time without fail. And I always get this story with the actual contents inside. From there, we go to the TTS. If we just look at our parser, you can see we've got the story, and then we've got the actual text there. Nice clean text for the TTS. So the TTS, This is using Kokoro, as we said earlier. This has an API. You can do go to the link, which is localhost :8880 / and if you do /docs, you'll get the API. If you do /web, you'll actually get the web interface where you can play with the voices, see what they sound like, all that good stuff. We go back to the docs here. You can see the list of voices available. We can test this out. These are all the voices. Very, very cool. You can even mix and match these voices. So I could mix Bella and Hart, and I could make Bella like point A, and then I could do Hart at point 2. I could mix them together and I'd get a slightly different voice. That's really cool that you can do that. We're not going to be doing any of that in this video. The voice we're using is Nicole, because she's got this very soft voice. She sounds quite cool. Or it sounds quite cool. She sounds cool. Kind of weird. I don't know what you refer to it as. The AI sounds cool. We're using this create speech endpoint. So this is the payload that you send it. You don't need to send it all these parameters, right? I'm only sending it a couple. And that's in this HTTP node here. It's a post request. There's no authentication on this. It's a JSON body. And this is what we're sending it, right? The model is Kokoro. I can never say that. We're sending in the prompt. We're stringifying the prompt just in case there is some kind of funkiness in there and it breaks the string. We're just kind of forcing it there to be a string. And then we're putting in what we actually want to be converted to a string, right? And this means it can have like double quotes and backslashes and stuff, and it will still be maintained as a string. Without that, if there was some weird backslashes and stuff, it would break it. We've got the voice. That's being pulled from the Airtable. So that's whatever you select here for the voice, that's what it will use. Speed, that's also coming from the Airtable. That's this value here. So if you wanted it to talk slower, you wanted it to talk faster, you can adjust it there. And then the response format, MP3. That's it. Very simple payload. That's the endpoint. It's a post request. Sends it.
Petal the rabbit, with her softest fur, took tiny hops into a field of flowers.
Very good. And that'll just return an MP3. From there, this is where we're using Mini IO, the storage that we covered earlier. This is, again, built into n8n, that it can just use S3 storage. Really, really cool. You'll need to set up your credentials for that. So region doesn't matter. You can put anything you want for the region. Mini IO isn't really concerned with that. Not in a basic way. When you set it up out of the box, right, you don't need to worry about the region. You can put anything in there. Access key and the secret key. You'll need to put force path style on. I don't know what that actually does, but I know if it's not ticked, it throws up errors. And when it is ticked, there is no errors. So keep it ticked. We're giving it the bucket name. Well, the operations upload. We're getting their UUID, because this is what's going to determine our file name. By default, this will just return speech.mp3. And we could just upload that, right, as speech. But if we're doing multiple runs, we're going to get issues with all these file names being the same, right? So we just take the UUID, which is supplied from Baserow here. When you create a new field, the UUID is like one of the presets it's got. Super, super handy, because when you create a new row, you'll just get this. It will just populate this with a UUID. Super useful for us, because we need that for our name. And then we're just giving it the extension. This ultimately pumps out this as a file name, right? So that gets uploaded. All this returns back is just a success or a fail. That's it, nothing else, which is a bit unfortunate. It'd be nice if it returned a link or something, but that's just unfortunately not how it works. From there, this is where we use the first bit of the NCA Toolkit. So I'm doing ffmpeg compose, and this is what I'm sending it. And what I'm doing here is I'm sending the link to that file we just uploaded. So I've sort of hard-coded the URL here. This will always be the same. That's the bucket name. Well, you've got the server there. So it's port 9000. This is what it's got 2 ports, right? 9001 is for the web UI, and then 9000 is for all the API stuff, or if you want to download files and such. Then it's the bucket name, and then it's the name of the file. And we're sending this to the NCA, and it's just going to return back. It's just going to probe it and return back the duration of that, which it's done. So this is 136 seconds, 0.704. And that'll become important while we need that duration a little bit later in the line. So we've got the script. We've got the audio now. The audio is uploaded. We can use that. We can actually go to the bucket here, do a little refresh. The account key provider does not match our records. That's interesting. Don't know what that was, but there's the audio file there, right? You can preview that.
Petal the rabbit with her softest fur.
That's cool. So the next thing is to generate the prompts for the image generation, and that's what this is, another LLM. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention is the actual LLM we're using is OpenRouter, but it's the free Gemini Flash model that they've got. So it doesn't cost anything. It's the same one I'm using for the scripter here. So you could run a local model. Why? This is free. It's probably going to be quicker as well. So this is going to generate prompts for us. And you can see here, again, ChatGPT kind of set all this up for me. Just working back and forth. It could probably do with being tweaked. But this is kind of working for now. So feel free to change this however you want. And all we're doing is we're just telling it it's an image prompter. It's been given a full script. It should create 6 prompts. So this matches the number of images we had set in our Baserow here. And so on and so on and so on. It's got some guidelines and stuff to avoid. And then that'll go ahead and produce prompts for us. Now, one of the things I added is I said, put this at the end, right? Art style, painting, and then add the Lora. So add that at the end of each prompt. That just kind of locks in the paint style that I wanted. This can be whatever you want, right? You kind of, if you've got a certain style or you've got a certain thing that you add to every prompt that works, or Loras, maybe you've got multiple Loras, this is where you would sort of add that. And it's in the prompt here, make sure to add that. And it does add it consistently every time. There's never an issue there. So that's our 6 prompts, right? Again, if we decided we wanted 12 images, this would produce 12 prompts for each one of them images. Then we split them out into 6 items. Because at the moment, this is processing 1 at a time, right? And now we're splitting these prompts out into 6 individual items. So the next node that we go on to, this is going to process 6 times. So it's basically going to, you can see it's like a little loop. It's going to go through and it's going to, in this instance, we're generating a new unique ID. And this node is called the crypto node. And you can select generate, property name, UUID, type, UUID. What it's going to do is anything you send it through this, it's just going to attach this extra field to it with a UUID, which is going to be useful for us when we want to name the images as we're generating them. So this is going to produce 6 UUIDs for each one of them prompts. Then we're gonna set some values here. So we're gonna just set the prompt there. Don't necessarily need to set it there, but we're gonna set it there. Then we've got the file name. So this is ultimately going to be where it's going to be, right? Once the image is generated and it's uploaded, this is going to be the URL where you can access that. So it's the URL of the mini IO. There's the bucket name, and then we're taking that generated UUID, and then we're adding .png to the end of it, right? And this is going to produce six URLs for us, which is nice. And then we've got clip duration. Now this is why we can put as many images as we want, right? Because what we're doing here, and it's why we needed to define in the beginning here, where we set these as numbers. This is why we needed to set them as numbers, because we're doing a little division here. So when we get the audio duration, which is from this node, we're going to take this duration, and then we're going to divide that by the number of images. So in this case, it's 6. And then that's going to produce this number, which is 22 seconds, 22.7 seconds, right? we're going to create video clips out of these images once they're generated. And this is how long each clip's going to be. And 6, if you multiply this by 6, it's going to equate to the final duration. And that's how we get the video. I don't know if I probably did a terrible job of explaining that, but yeah, we need to do that. Then it's going to loop through the items. So you could send all 6 of these in and try and have it just, ram the stable diffusion here, but that's going to have problems. It's going to be in a queue. You're going to be sat at this HTTP node, and it's going to eventually time out. You can increase the timeout value if you want. Just have this, going forever. But it's just easier to have it go for a loop. Have it generate one image at a time. Just go through like that. These images for me take about 20 seconds each. This is the post URL we're using. So this is the local SD Stable Diffusion API. No authentication required on this. This is the payload. So we're just giving it the prompt. We're giving it some negative prompts. We're saying to do 25 steps. Send image true. This sends back a base 64. Set the GFC scale. CFG scale, damn, that's hard to say. The height and all that good stuff, right? Sampler. Now, if you're using a different model, you'll tweak these values to what works for the model that you're using. Maybe you're creating anime stories or something, right? In that case, you'd probably want a different sampler, depending on what model, again, you're using. Very flexible. So that goes through. It'll hit this loop, it'll go through. Then it's going to take that string. It's going to take that base 64 image, convert it to a string. And then that string is going to get converted into a binary file. And then you can see how that works there. So we've got 6 items here. And you can kind of preview them. So that looks cool, all in this paint style, which is nice. Then it's going to upload it. Same as what was going on with that audio. It's going to upload it to the same bucket with the UUID that we generated in the node here. And in this instance, I've actually manually put .png, but we could programmatically do the file extension here. But I know it's always going to come back to PNG, so that's fine to do it like that. It's going to do that 6 times. Then, once that's complete, it's going to go bloop, 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 and then it's going to move down to the actual video creation part. So this has sent 6 items to that to generate the images, and then it's sending 6 items down to this part. And this is where the NCA Toolkit comes into play. So the first thing it's going to do is take the images and create 6 video clips. Now I'm doing this as 6 items, so it's going to chuck 6 things at this. Internally, the NCA Toolkit's going to have like a queue system. It's going to generate all them clips, and then it's going to output 6 items. And this is going to be the single clips. So if I just go to this one, right, this is just going to be one of the clips, 22 seconds long. It's got a little zoom in, and it's just going to do that for 22 seconds. And it will do that for all the images. From there, we're taking all them links that have come back, and we're just collapsing it into one item, right? Otherwise, it's going to continue as 6 items, which we don't want. We just want one item coming out of there. And there's a little bit of code here, nothing crazy. This is just taking all them links, creating a URL, an array for us, which we can then use in the next node, which is another post node. So this is the concatenate endpoint. And you just give it a list of videos, and it will just add all them together. And at the end of it, you'll have one video of all of these, right? Now, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't checked the order on this, whether the audio, the order is correct. So you might want to check that. Yeah, I think it is, based on how I understand how these things work. So that's going to create an array, and then what that's going to do, yeah, put that in there. This is a very quick operation, so this won't take long at all. And then from there, we hit the NCA Toolkit again. This is a post. We're using the ffmpeg compose this time. And we're giving it the response from the previous node, which is what's give us the final video, right? This is all the video clips combined into one. And then we're giving it the TTS audio as well. And then we're just mashing that together. And then all we do after that is just update the base row with the URL, and then we mark the status as done. That is it. Now, when you set up the NCA Toolkit, you will need to do the authentication. If you've worked with HTTP nodes and APIs and stuff, you'll be very familiar with header auth. When you set up the NCA Toolkit, it'll ask you to set up a key, right? When you do the Docker command, there'll be an API key aspect in there. Put whatever you want in there. That's what you'll put in here. And then you'll just use that for the authentication. And that is it. Now, this whole thing did run. This took 3 minutes and 55 seconds to run that whole thing, so not too long. Less than 5 minutes. Didn't cost a single penny. And the video we got out of that, let's have a look.
With her softest fur, took tiny hops into a field of flowers, unlike any you've ever seen. Thistle the gnome, with his pointy, moss-covered hat, walked.
So that's cool. I'm just going to mute. I'm going to skip to the end to make sure that there's no weird cut-off or anything.
Fairy carry you softly to sleep, surrounded by the sweet dreams of dancing petals and sleepy bluebells. Sweet dreams.
There you go. That's pretty cool. Like I said, all the links are going to be in the description. I apologize for the video being a little bit lengthy. It's really just because of all this stuff that you've got to set up prior. This shouldn't take you any longer than 10, 20 minutes to set up, right? You shouldn't really have any issues. If you do, let me know in the comments. I'm absolutely happy to help you. Maybe I'll set up a Discord group or something, which will make it a bit easier for help and stuff. But yeah, I kind of hope that's useful. If you want more videos, I mean, I create videos on podcasts, creating like automated podcasts, faceless videos, which are interesting. Again, all powered by this infrastructure. Or maybe you want a video of all this being set up, right? I can do a video of it, all the whole installation process and walk through step by step. Yeah, let me know. All right, good stuff. That's me signing out.